When you told me you were quitting your job, I immediately thought, does this mean you'll be depending on me financially? But that's not the case at all. Becoming independent is more like a career shift, not a sign that there's no income. You're really going independent? That's not going to work. If that's the case, then why don't you go independent from me too? What am I talking about? Divorce. Yes, I'm talking about divorce. I can't support someone who's unemployed. Let me introduce myself. I'm Amy, 42 years old, a mother, and I work while raising my child. I had taken a break from work when my daughter was born, but once she started elementary school, I was fortunate enough to be rehired by my previous employer. Now, I primarily work from home. My daughter is now in 7th grade, and as she's grown more independent, I've started thinking about trying something new in my career. My husband, who is also 42, had a promising start as a salesman when we got married. He was confident in his abilities, and 5 years ago, he decided to switch jobs, believing he could earn a higher salary. However, things didn't go as planned. His new job came with a lower salary, fewer benefits, and required him to work overtime almost every day. Meanwhile, my family lives in the countryside and runs a farm. My daughter has always been fascinated by their work and enjoys helping out in the fields whenever we visit. My parents are overjoyed to have her around and gladly include her in their daily tasks. However, my husband despises the countryside. He never wants to visit my parents' house, no matter the occasion. Recently, I told him that I was planning to visit my parents for a week. How about you? I asked, knowing what his answer would be. I've got work to do, so no thanks, he replied. I have a project that's wrapping up soon. Got it, I said, already expecting his response. Even though I knew he wouldn't come, I still asked out of courtesy. After all, we're a family, and it's important to include him, even if his answer is predictable. Every day while I'm at my parents' house, he calls me not out of concern or affection, but to ask trivial questions. What should I eat today? He'll ask. Just eat the leftovers in the fridge, I'll reply, feeling a mixture of frustration and resignation. It's not that I mind the calls, but they feel more like a lack of self-sufficiency rather than a gesture of love. It makes me wonder, is this the independence I was seeking? Or just another dependency in disguise? I'm not in the mood for that, I said. Then why don't you cook something yourself? I suggested. What? Why should I? I'm tired, he responded, sounding annoyed. Yeah, I know you've worked hard, I replied, trying to keep the peace. Where's my change of clothes? He demanded. They're all folded up in your usual drawer, I answered. Whoa, what's with the folding? You cut corners, he complained. Well, you're on your own then, I thought to myself, feeling increasingly frustrated. This has been my husband's attitude the entire time I've been at my parents' house. He calls and messages me with these trivial complaints, and for the most part, I've just been ignoring him. My husband doesn't like it when our daughter and I go back to my parents' house, and it shows. Every time we return, the house is a mess, overflowing with garbage. Mom, why is the house always so messy when we come back from Grandpa's? My daughter asked. Yes, it's because Dad leaves everything in disarray, I explained. Why do you always clean up the mess, Mom? He's the one who makes it. Shouldn't he clean up after himself? She questioned, her frustration mirroring mine. Certainly, he should, I agreed. Even my daughter has grown tired of her father's behavior. Though we enjoy our time at Grandpa's house, the thought of coming back to a dirty home always dampens our spirits. Mom, can we stay at Grandpa's house longer? Grandpa and Grandma work so hard in the fields. I wish I could help them more, she said with a kindness that was in stark contrast to my husband's selfishness. Thank you, sweetheart. Grandpa and Grandma would love that, I replied, touched by her generosity. Her words lingered with me, making me realize just how tired I was of my husband's childish ways. After our long visit, I returned to work and had a meeting with my company to discuss my health, annual assessments, and goals. Inspired by my daughter's comments, I decided to propose a new idea to the president. Why don't we use our program to make agriculture more IT-oriented? I suggested. The president considered my idea but pointed out, this is a business that other companies have been working on for quite some time. That's true, I acknowledged. This kind of business has been thriving overseas for decades. Japanese companies have only started building new models in agriculture over the last 9 years. But with the patents we hold, I believe we can operate this successfully. We even have potential farmers who are ready to cooperate as part of the operational model. I see, the president said thoughtfully. In the meantime, can you submit a detailed proposal? Okay, I will, I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. I immediately reached out to my parents for their cooperation, and they readily agreed. My daughter's wish to help her hardworking grandparents had sparked a great business opportunity. A month after submitting the proposal, my project was approved, and from that point on, I threw myself into the work with passion and determination. I've been increasingly worried about my parents as they grow older each year. The thought that this project could potentially help them made me genuinely excited. However, my husband seemed determined to dampen my enthusiasm at every turn. You've been acting a bit too flirty with that boss of yours. I don't like it, he accused one day. Oh, really? I responded, trying to stay calm. Are you getting carried away? He continued, his tone laced with suspicion. I don't know, I replied, growing weary of his constant negativity. But if my face demotivates you, then maybe you shouldn't look at me. His only goal was to make me feel bad, and unfortunately, it was working. I felt the sting of his words, just as he intended. But I refused to show it. I kept my tone even and treated him as if nothing was wrong. This wasn't new. He'd always been like this. Whenever I started to feel excited or happy about something, he seemed eager to bring me down. I've grown used to this over time, so I usually don't let it bother me. But it never seems to sit well with him when I don't react the way he expects. I can't just not look at you. We live together, he snapped. That's not entirely true, I replied. You can stay in your room. I'm perfectly capable of doing my job and taking care of our daughter without needing your involvement. If you took care of yourself, we wouldn't need to have much contact at all. That's not what I'm talking about, he shouted, his voice rising in anger. His yelling left me feeling both frustrated and trapped. I wanted to divorce him, but the thought of explaining it to our daughter made me hesitate. I couldn't make up my mind. When I didn't react to his insults, he turned his criticism toward the farm, trying to hurt me where it really stung. Maybe your inability to read between the lines is because you grew up on a farm in the countryside, he sneered. He was acting like a child, and it took everything in me to stay calm. But when he insulted my parents, it really pushed me to the edge. This time, though, I managed to keep my cool. I was too motivated by the success of my project to let his words bring me down. So, are you saying you can't do your job because you grew up in the city? I shot back. You're crossing the line. Don't be a jerk. No, you are the one who started this, he retorted, and our argument escalated from there. We've been arguing like this a lot lately. He used to be a kind person, but everything changed when he switched jobs. Our relationship deteriorated, even as my work started to thrive. A few months later, after much contemplation and discussions with my company, I made the difficult decision to resign. The constant tension at home had taken its toll, and I knew I needed to make a change, not just for myself, but for my daughter and my future. I made the decision to leave my job and sign a licensing agreement with my current company. I decided it was time to become independent. Of course, I had told my husband about my plans beforehand, but it seems he didn't really listen to me. As soon as I officially resigned from my job, He surprised me by saying he wanted a divorce. You quit your job? Does that mean you're going to live off me? He asked, his voice full of anger. No, that's not true. I responded calmly. Becoming independent is just like making a career change. It doesn't mean I won't have any income. You're going to become independent? Are you kidding me? That's never going to work, he scoffed. If that's what you want, then go independent from me too. Huh? Divorce? Are you talking about divorce? I asked, shocked by his sudden words. Yes, divorce. I'm not going to support someone who's unemployed, he said coldly. I was at a loss for words. The word divorce hit me hard, especially since my thoughts immediately turned to our daughter. Just then, my daughter, who should have been asleep, opened the living room door. Mom, get a divorce, she said, standing there with a serious look on her face. My husband looked momentarily shocked by her sudden appearance, but he quickly regained his composure. It's your fault for saying you're quitting your job, he insisted, trying to shift the blame onto me. But my daughter wasn't looking at him, her eyes were fixed on me. It was as if she had made up her mind long before this moment. My husband's words had no effect on her. Are you sure? I asked her gently. Yes, I want you to divorce him, she said firmly. I don't like him. He always says mean things to you, Mom. Don't stay married for my sake. I want you to get a divorce right now. Let's go live with Grandpa and Grandma. Her words filled me with both sadness and relief. Thank you, I said softly. But you'll have to change schools. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Let's go. You don't have to talk to Dad anymore, right? Yes, I guess so, I replied, feeling a sense of finality. Well, I guess that's it. We'll talk about the details later. My husband, still fuming, tried to interject. Hey, wait a minute, he shouted. This isn't my fault, okay? Okay, I said, trying to end the conversation. We'll talk later. I hope you can live a life you won't regret in the future. He sneered. I'm not going to regret it. I'll be free once you guys are gone. With that, I turned my back on him, still ranting and raving, and left the house with my daughter. We went straight to my parents' house, where my daughter seemed to relax, despite all my worries. She adjusted quickly, and even though she had to change schools with the new semester, she seemed to be enjoying her new environment. Once my daughter was settled in, my husband and I had another discussion about the divorce. He claimed he wouldn't pay alimony because he believed it was my fault. Normally, if one partner is at fault, they could be asked to pay alimony. However, my husband didn't ask for alimony from me, which made it clear that he didn't really understand what it meant to be liable in a divorce. I'm going to make sure you pay alimony properly, I stated firmly. What? Because you think I'm liable, he scoffed. You're just unemployed. You don't know anything. How can I be liable? I didn't do anything wrong, he protested, trying to defend himself. Exactly. You didn't do anything not for our home, not for our daughter. I was the one struggling to keep everything together. But you managed to find time for Julie, didn't you? You took care of everything for her, I replied, my voice steady but full of emotion. What are you talking about? He stammered, clearly caught off guard. Without a word, I laid the evidence of his infidelity on the table between us. His eyes widened in shock. What? How did you get this? Did you go through my phone? That's illegal, he snapped. Excuse me? You're calling me rude? You're a married man and you've been sneaking around with another woman. What on earth are you doing? I shot back, feeling a surge of anger. And no, I didn't go through your phone. I didn't have to. Then how did you get this? Did you hire a detective with your non-existent income? He sneered, still trying to find a way out. It wasn't me, I said quietly. It was our daughter. What? He asked, completely taken aback. After we separated, our daughter told me that she had seen you walking arm in arm with a woman she didn't recognize. She used my laptop to sync with your phone and collected the data herself. She showed me everything and encouraged me to divorce you. She told me she hates you, she hates that you're her father. I explained, my voice breaking slightly with the weight of the situation. He stood there, speechless, unable to process what he was hearing. So, now I can divorce you without a second thought, I continued. I can't believe you let our daughter see those pictures of you. You're such a lousy father. He looked down, defeated. He knew there was no point in making excuses. I had all the evidence. Besides, I added, your new job wasn't because of some great opportunity. It was because of another affair. And you're paying alimony to the husband of that affair partner. You even lied to me about your salary being reduced. I've looked into everything. At this point, my husband, who had been so stubborn and arrogant, finally nodded his head. He knew there was no escaping the truth. I'm proud of our daughter, I said, feeling a sense of bittersweet pride. She's smart and capable. I'd be happy if she takes over my company one day, if that's what she wants, of course. I'm sorry, he mumbled, clearly grasping for a way out. Let's not get divorced after all. You don't want to be unemployed either, do you? But I wasn't stopping. No, I'm not changing my mind. Besides, you're the one who's in trouble here. If you don't pay alimony and child support in full, I'll go to your company and tell them everything. Hey, if you do that, I won't be able to keep my job, he exclaimed, panic creeping into his voice. Well, maybe you should start looking for another job, I suggested, my voice cold. You're going to regret this for the rest of your life, he warned, trying to intimidate me one last time. I just smiled and brushed him off. His threats had no power over me anymore. After that, my husband was reluctant to sign the divorce papers, trying to delay the inevitable. But I knew the truth was on my side, and I wasn't going to back down. I had a new life to build with my daughter, and I wasn't going to let anything or anyone stand in my way. I hired a lawyer and left everything in his hands. In less than 3 weeks, our divorce was finalized. My husband didn't want to spend any more money on legal battles. With 2 alimony cases and child support payments already draining his finances, he knew a lawyer would push him to the brink of bankruptcy. In the end, my ex-husband paid alimony and child support all at once. He couldn't cover it with his savings, so he made a point of telling me that he was now in debt, hoping I'd feel sorry for him. But I didn't. I ignored his attempts to gain my sympathy. When I filed a claim for alimony against his cheating partner as well, their relationship fell apart after a massive argument. She was furious about having to pay alimony, but in the end, she agreed to it. She even had to borrow money from her parents to settle the debt. I heard she moved back to the countryside to help with the family business, where her parents could keep a close eye on her. As for my ex-husband, he could no longer afford the rent on his apartment. He had to move into a shabby, run-down place. Meanwhile, my business was thriving, and I found myself enjoying each day more and more. Although my marriage didn't work out, I'm grateful that what I learned has been valuable for my family's farming business. My parents are thrilled that the IT system we implemented has significantly reduced their work hours and eased their workload. Through all of this, my daughter has been my saving grace. I decided to let her have a smartphone and tablet while she was still in elementary school. There was some hesitation at first, but she has proven to be responsible and uses them wisely. Her favorite place is still out in the fields, but lately, she's shown an interest in my work as well. She's been asking me to teach her how to build a website, and I'm excited to see where her curiosity will take her. At just 10 years old, she's already so capable, but it saddens me that she had to witness the darker side of her father's actions. I hope the adults around her will continue to nurture her and guide her. Her future is bright, and I'm looking forward to seeing all that she will accomplish. As her mother, I'm proud of her, and I know she will go on to do great things.